Good evening. This is, I don't think there's any secret here. You and I are a little bit different in terms of our beliefs, and I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm an atheist. Let that sink in. Any of you who are a little bit nervous right now, I want to assure you that I'm not a serial killer. I don't eat babies. Okay. I'm just curious, how many of you have a friend who's an atheist? Just raise your hand. Okay. Oh, a lot of you know atheists. All right. And they're pretty normal people? Yeah, okay. All right, good. This is a unique experience to be here in a church with you guys, to actually even be prayed for. That was pretty cool. Here's my goal. I'm a professor. I teach philosophy. My goal tonight is not to deconvert you, all right? Not interested in having you run to your parents and say, I'm now an atheist or something like that, okay? So I'll just assure you. Well, here's what I want to do tonight. I just want to get you to think. I just want to get you to think critically about what you believe, what you've been taught, probably many of you have grown up with. How many of you have grown up in the church? Not necessarily this church, but the church. Okay, a lot of you. So a lot of you have grown up in the church. I just want you to think carefully tonight, okay? That's my goal. And now, like I said, I'm an atheist, so that means my view is that there is no God. And actually, there's not a whole lot of difference between you and I. I just believe in one less God than you do, right? I mean, there's a big difference between us and the Hindus. They have like 10 million gods. You only have one, so I think we're closer together. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about why you believe that there's a God. Why you believe that there's this one God. Now let me just tell you why I'm not a Christian, why I'm an atheist. Two things in particular. Sometimes I'll have Christians who'll say to me, Brett, you could never demonstrate that God does not exist because, Brett, you don't have all the knowledge of this universe. You haven't explored every corner of this universe to say with certainty that there is no God out there. Well, I actually don't think you need to do that to determine whether God exists or not. Look, if I said to you that down this hallway and to the left or the right, that there's a square circle sitting on the floor, and I want you to go down that hallway and go pick it up for me and bring it back. How many of you would have to go down that hallway, go look for a square circle, and not find one before you could say that there are no square circles? No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I would. I'd go down there. I'd be the one that goes down there and checks.
Okay, you would really go looking for a square circle.
Yes.
Okay, well that's interesting. All right. I think it sounds like everyone else, though, for the most part, would not have to go down there. What if I said to you, maybe you two gentlemen, what if I said you also, standing next to the square circle is a married bachelor? And would you go bring him in here?
No.
Yeah, no. Okay, there we got you. No. Okay, so that in that case you would say there's no married bachelor. And see, you don't even have to go down the hallway to determine that there is no married bachelor, right? That in philosophy is what we call a logically incoherent idea. It's a contradictory idea, and contradictory ideas are not true. And so if I say there's a square circle or a married bachelor, there's no need for you to go look at it because you know that the concept is a contradiction. And so the statement can't be true. There's no married bachelors down there. And so when we have a contradiction like that, we don't have to go looking. We just know because we have a logical mind that thing does not exist. And so when it comes to, this is my first issue with the Christian God. To me, it seems that the Christian God is a contradiction. Because I would guess that at a Baptist church, you're what we call Trinitarians. And so you believe that God is one being who is at the same time three beings. Now, in philosophy, when we examine something like that, we realize that that's a contradiction. Because three beings are three beings. Three beings can't be one being. One being is not three beings are not one being. That's a contradiction. So it seems to me that the Christian view of God is a contradictory view, and therefore it can't be true. It has to be false, just like a married bachelor. Because you can't have a being who's three beings and one being at the same time in the same way. That violates a basic law of logic we call the law of non-contradiction. Okay? But even if you were to somehow overcome that objection, the second way we determine whether or not things exist is we go and we look. So, for instance, I might say to you, outside in your church parking lot, tied up to a tree, is a unicorn. Now, is it possible, is it just possible, is it logically possible that unicorns exist?
Yes.
Yes, it's logically possible. There's nothing contradictory. It's not like a married bachelor. There's nothing contradictory about the idea of a horse with a horn. But of course, do we think that unicorns exist? Well, of course not. Why not? Because we have no evidence for them. And so we haven't found unicorn fossils, right? We haven't found the horn of a unicorn. We don't discover unicorn fur, somewhere in the Amazon or something like that. And so as far as we know, now have we searched every corner of the earth? No. Have we searched every corner of the universe? No. It's just possible that maybe there's a unicorn out there, but at this point, we seem to be rationally justified that there are no unicorns because we have no evidence. Now, of course, if someone brought out evidence, then it might change our views, but at this point, it's safe to say that we would be rational to conclude that unicorns don't exist. In the same way, when we look out into the universe, we don't see any evidence for God. There's no evidence for an invisible being out there, and so it would be safe to conclude that God does not exist. And so that is the way that we would go about, as an atheist, I would go about demonstrating that there is no God, that God does not exist. And there's much more to say, but I certainly don't want to turn this into a monologue where I do all the talking. I'd love to hear maybe what your views are. What are your thoughts on that? Because again, I want you to think critically, and to maybe to give me a reason why you think God exists. Yes. What's your name?
My name's Nathan.
Okay, Nathan, go ahead.
Okay, like, I don't know, like, if you have like a problem going on, like, I'm not saying you can use God just for problems, but like, if you got a problem going on and you pray about it, like I would say 150% of the time it works. Like it'll get resolved.
150%, every single time.
Or disresolved, like another way, like, or you'll get the idea to solve the problem or whatever. And,
so
and I just don't think it's ironic, like out of nowhere.
It's not coincidence.
It's not.
Okay, so what you're saying, Nathan, is that if you pray about something, then God will work 100% of the time, and that will be proof that He's really there. So are you telling me that there's never been a time where you've prayed for something and that prayer request hasn't been answered? Oh, it's a yes or no. Well, that's okay. Just from my perspective as an atheist, that's kind of convenient, isn't it? Right? I mean, because if God doesn't answer your prayer request, then you just say, "Oh, well, God said no this time." And so, how would I ever know whether or not prayer works if it's either a yes or no? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So maybe He answers it, but maybe it's a no. But it sounds like what you're saying, Nathan, is that the proof is.
Maybe it doesn't work out all the time. But
okay, that's good. Hey, we're making progress. This is good. You're thinking critically about what you believe. That's good. This is good. That's what I want. Okay, so you say, what's your name? Joy. So whether it's a yes or no, He's still answering. How do you know God's answering? Because I have a Mormon neighbor, and my Mormon neighbor tells me that I have to take the Book of Mormon, and I have to read it all the way through, and then I have to pray, and then God is going to tell me whether or not the Book of Mormon is true. Now, I'm guessing, I don't know, are Mormons Christians?
no.
No, okay. What's a Mormon? Okay, I don't know say that. Okay, your youth pastor will have to tell you that. In my view, Mormons have these crazy views about becoming gods or something like that, okay? But the Mormon will tell me that I need to pray about it and whether or not it's true, and he's told me that he's prayed about it, God told him it's true, so Mormonism's true for him. And I'm guessing that you're going to disagree with that, so how do I know that he's not right and you're wrong? Because you're telling me to do the same thing. Prayer. You see the dilemma I face as an atheist. If I'm gonna test whether or not God is real by praying and having some experience, well, the Mormon tells me the same thing. I'm not sure what to do with that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question. I've never studied psychology, so I don't know a lot of stuff. But like people say like some people say like, oh well, he doesn't exist because like you've never seen him.
Yeah.
But like people you say like people could never like walk in the mirror. People would say that didn't exist, and they found out that it would. But so there's no way to tell.
You're really scared her. It's okay. God wasn't speaking to you through that. Just the dude sneezing, okay? Oh, that was God. Did anyone think that's a sign from God? You prayed for the sneeze. I think, isn't it like breaking one of the 10 Commandments to lie, son? Just kidding. Okay, go ahead. I'm just teasing. Go ahead. Say he's not real.
Like there's no way to say he's not real. Then again.
What do you mean there's no way to say he's not real?
You don't know.
There is a way, technically. If you just want to say that, there is no way.
Let's give her the. She has the floor. Well, but hold on. Let me pause. Let me hit the pause button there because I think what I did at the beginning is I told you 2 ways that we can say that he's not there. One, if it's a contradiction, like a Mary Bachelor, just like I could say there's no Mary Bachelor there, I think I can also say there's no God there because the 3 in 1 is a contradiction. You see? Just like I can say there's no unicorn, I can safely say there's no unicorn out in the parking lot. I can also say there's no God out there because I have no evidence. So that's I guess what I would say. So the earth is evident. All right, you think about that because I'll come back to you, but let's get some other people in. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, you know me.
Yes, I met you. Beginning thing.
Okay.
Morgan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. What about if you're a teacher, right? Do you believe in the Big Bang theory?
Yes, I do. My personal view is the Big Bang.
And that they said that that one particle exploded and it made the universe. What happened to that one particle? You don't know if there's a higher being above you.
Okay. Are you telling me you don't believe in the Big Bang?
Well, I do. I believe.
No.
You do. You do believe in the Big Bang. So you
never know. He could have just like poked it or something.
Okay. God poked the Big Bang.
Yeah, he poked that one particle and then it exploded.
Particle. Okay. I would say let's say that's a possibility. But what evidence do I have that God?
But you said you believed it.
I said I believe in the Big Bang. I don't believe in God.
Well, do you have an answer like why the Big Bang happened?
Well, yeah, science gives us great explanations of the Big Bang and descriptions of it. Now look, could it not be that maybe our universe is one of actually many universes, many bubble universes, a multiverse, as scientists are looking into now, that this is maybe just one of many universes that gives rise to other universes. And so we have this eternal multiverse that gives rise to our universe.
So how do you know there's not a higher being?
Well, because I have no evidence for it. I mean, you can say, I could just come back and say, how do you know there's no unicorns? Well, you would tell me, well, we don't have any evidence.
Mythology.
Mythology. Yeah, mythology, that's right. Unicorns are mythology. And we don't believe mythology anymore because we've come past that, right? We no longer, yeah, you're right there in the red. Yeah.
In general, like every atheist, Christian, all that is religion. And the definition of religion is your belief. But
atheism is actually not a religion.
I've
got beliefs. I have beliefs, but religion requires faith. And faith is believing things when you don't have evidence for them, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't have any faith.
Like you say though, you ain't got no evidence or none of the stuff.
Right.
But you look in the Bible and you look in the book of Revelations.
Yeah.
And so much of the stuff that's happening nowadays is what it says in the Bible, and it's happening.
Like what?
Huh?
And what in particular does the book of Revelation say that's happening?
It's talking about the natural disasters of the world ending, coming to an end.
Oh, lots of people predicted natural disasters.
Well, yeah.
Look, I can make a prediction
It's
for
so
you.
many
I predict in the
times
next
over
year there are going to be a lot of natural disasters. Now, I don't. I mean, you're going to say, yeah, okay, that's a really broad prediction. I can predict natural disasters. I can guarantee you that in the future people will die. Okay? But that doesn't mean I'm somehow got this knowledge from God. It doesn't somehow show that the Bible is from God. I'm going to give someone else a chance. Yeah, back here. Okay, shh. Do I believe in ghosts? No. I'm what we call a naturalist. I think that the natural world, the material world, the physical world is all that exists. So there's no ghosts, there's no demons, there's no angels, there's no souls, things like this.
Well, what if there was evidence?
Yeah, well, I would be open to it, but can you show me the evidence?
I got a question. You ever watch Ghost Hunters?
All right, ghost hunters. Well,
There's your evidence. Watch Ghost Hunters.
okay,
That's evidence.
that's evidence for ghosts. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave that. Just gonna leave that out there, and you tell me if that's really evidence. Okay, let's go back here. Yeah, go ahead.
What's your perspective on the Bible?
My perspective on the Bible. The Bible is an ancient religious text that was written by men in the first century, and it's probably no different than maybe the Quran or other ancient religious texts. That there may be some good moral things there, but you had a group of people who had an agenda who wanted to communicate that and promote their views, and that's fine. But yeah, no, it's a man-made product. Okay. All right, we'll go to this side and we'll come back here. Yeah, right there.
If you believe in the Big Bang Theory, where does the subatomic particle come from?
There are different views on that. We seem to have at the quantum level, things seem to pop into existence out of nothing. And so at the quantum level, it seems to defy some of the cause and effect kind of things we see at a macro level. So it seems like to me that maybe these kinds of things at the quantum level come into existence out of nothing. I don't know. I would ask, where does God come from? That'd be my, because I know that it's kind of an objection that we get. If I have to come up with an explanation for where the Big Bang came from or how the Big Bang started, I also want an explanation for how God began, because you're going to need that same kind of thing if you think everything needs a beginning. Yes, ma'am.
What was it saying? It's better to know that there is one God, there isn't one, than as if there isn't one God.
Yeah, so this is actually it's called Pascal's wager. I don't know if you're familiar with the French philosopher Pascal, who kind of threw this idea out there that hey, look, if you're a betting person, let's go ahead and bet on God just in case He does exist, because it's the safe thing to do. Because if He doesn't exist, I'm in big trouble. Apparently, I guess that's one way to approach it. But if He doesn't exist, it's not. It seems to me that you've lost an entire lifetime. If God doesn't exist, you have. I mean, let's say, just on my view, and I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but just on my view, then what you're doing week after week after week here, which apparently you'll do for the rest of your life, this is absolutely a waste of time if there is no God. So that's not a bet I'm willing to take. It's fun. Okay. You said yes, singing praises or worshiping your God, but let me give you an analogy. What if I told you that down the street there was a church, and every Sunday the people gathered, and they sang songs about a little green boy who flew around, or a little boy who flew around in a green suit, and he had a little partner named Tinkerbell. And then the leader of that church would get up every Sunday and preach a message about the virtues of this young boy, Peter Pan. And every week they gathered. How many of you would feel sorry for those people? Only a couple of you would feel sorry. If there was a church of Peter Pan, if there was a church of Peter Pan, I think that we would say that those folks are wasting their time, right? I think if you're going to be honest, people who worship Peter Pan and would devote their life to Peter Pan would be sad. I would not want them to do that because we know Peter Pan is a myth. And so in the same way, I would just say, look, think about it that way, that it's not, if God is not real, then you're not worshiping someone who's real. You're worshiping something that's like Peter Pan. Church is, okay. Sure. And sure, you might get some friendships out of it. That's great. But you can get friendships in a lot of places where you wouldn't necessarily spend a lot of time worshiping a deity who doesn't exist.
You could be there for your life too, not believing.
It's true.
You could be in deep trouble too.
You're right. I could be. And so what I've got to do is I've got to deal with the evidence that I've got. And so, yeah, we could kind of go into the, who's got the bigger bet, but I really want to just deal with who's got the evidence and who really has the evidence that God's real or not. Yes, sir.
So you believe in the Big Bang Theory coming from nothing, just an explosion out of nowhere?
Well, I'm not completely settled on that issue. I'm not a scientist. I'm a philosopher, but from my study, there is a there's certain movement in science that's gone to this idea that there's maybe a multiverse. That sounds pretty intriguing. I'm interested in that, but yeah, go on.
But you can't believe in an all-powerful being creating the world.
Well,
that seems more reasonable than something coming from nothing, to be honest.
Well, that's if the Big Bang is something that comes from nothing. But we certainly know from science. Science tells us that the Big Bang happened. How it happened is a different question. And certainly, you could dispute me on that, but clearly, if you look at the scientific literature, there's a consensus here. Okay. Now, that seems to be very different of what science can tell us about the universe than to compare that to a being, God, who I have to have faith in that I don't have any evidence for. Those are just way on completely different planes to me.
But in science, you have something and you make something that's something. You've got the elements, and those elements, you combine them and you get
sure.
Different things. And so how can you have nothing and then have something?
Well, how do I extrapolate that a scientist can do this in a lab to then that everything that exists comes from some great scientist like God? You see, how do I make that jump?
But how do you create a Big Bang Theory in a lab?
You don't. What you do, the Big Bang Theory isn't something that we discovered in a lab. It's as we look into the universe, we see evidence for the Big Bang, the expanding universe, and a number of other things that would lead us to conclude that the origin of the universe is the Big Bang.
So because you see stars in the sky, you think a giant explosion happened that creates the universe?
No. Yeah, you have to. I would encourage you to look at the scientific data. It's not just because I see stars in the sky, but but we discover things about those stars, right? And there's an expanding universe. There's a number of different things we look at scientifically. We don't just say, hey, there's stars in the sky, oh, Big Bang. No, we infer a Big Bang from the scientific evidence. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the foundation of Christianity, we believe our salvation is through Jesus Christ. So what is your opinion, or what do you think of Jesus, who he is?
Yeah, well, I guess first of all, I'm curious, salvation from what?
From his life, his perfect life that he lived here. He died on the cross.
No, but you said Jesus is your salvation. So salvation from what?
Salvation
From hell.
Okay, well, you're saying that like I know your
No,
concept.
I'm just asking your opinion, because he is a big part of Christianity. He is
Sure.
our salvation.
What do you
So
know
what-
about Jesus?
Everything that the Bible tells us. There are even books that
Where
show
did the Bible-
historians. that
What historians are you talking about?
I can't name them specifically, but there are books out there that show that Jesus was a man. You
Well,
said
okay.
You said
Do
the
you want me to
Bible-
take that on faith, though? Because look, let's set aside the Bible. Outside of the Bible, what do we have about Jesus?
What else do you need?
What else do you need? Well, I need a book that's not filled with error and contradiction, and that were written by men.
Well, there are other.
All your science and
Are all of your
Big Bang is
books-
written by men.
Are all of your books completely error-free?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't claim that they are, though. I don't claim that a science textbook is error-free. In fact, that's the great thing about science, is that science is a self-correcting discipline. When we get it wrong, we say that. right? And so, gosh, there's been a number of different discrepancies. I mean, just look. If you look at, here's a guy for you to read, a guy named Bart Ehrman. You've got more discrepancies in the biblical manuscripts, 300 to 400,000 discrepancies in the biblical manuscripts. That is more words than you have in the New Testament. Okay, so I'm not gonna throw away my mind to believe a book that's riddled with error. Okay, all right, a couple more people here. Yeah, in the back there with the hat. You haven't. Yeah.
What happens to you after death?
After I die, I stop. My body decays and life ends.
What happens to your soul?
Yeah, I don't believe that there's any soul.
Okay.
Yeah, we are
You don't
just
believe in
here now.
reincarnation either?
Reincarnation? No. No. Yes.
How long have you been an atheist? Like, have you been it your whole life, or has somebody influenced you?
I grew up in a Christian home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I went to college and got. I had a professor who really kind of did this, really challenged me, and made me rethink what I grew up with. Yeah. Yeah, right here.
Okay, so you believe like in I'm assuming evolution, correct?
Yes.
Right? Okay, cool.
Correct.
I'm just gonna kind of assume I guess, but is the reason why you don't believe like that God created things just because the Bible says that it was made like in 7 days, right? Essentially.
Well, no, I mean there's a lot more than that.
Okay. Well, anyway, okay, so I'm a Christian, right? Obviously, and so I.
Yeah, you're the guy that prayed for me.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm a Christian, right?
Yeah.
And so, I believe that obviously God created things, but whenever I look across, the earth, even just like from my own 18 years here, I can see how things change. I mean, it'd be kind of ignorant to ignore that some form of evolution is true. I mean, that's just ignorant, right? So, I mean, I truly believe that God used some form of evolution. I don't know necessarily all the way to Big Bang or whatever, but some form of
So
evolution.
are you a theistic evolutionist?
I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like that's what you're describing, that there's a God who exists, but is it possible that he kind of spun the world into existence and then allowed the process of evolution to take over and give us all life?
Maybe some. I'm not even sure those exact details. I would put incredible amount of thought into that. But whenever I look, it's kind of nerdy, but I really like space a lot, right? And so whenever, I know that like the nearest star, Alpha Centauri, is 4 light years away, and that traveling the speed of light, it takes 4 years to get. The speed of light is, instant, right? That's the nearest, the closest star, the next closest star in the universe.
Sure.
And that's one of trillions, trillions of billions of, you know what I mean? Obviously, whatever, right? Tons of stars, right?
Yeah.
And then I look about how even just the nearest star is that vast of a difference, right? We think from here to Canada is far away.
Yeah.
What about here to the next
Okay.
star? And anyway, but whenever I look at that, I find it hard to believe that all this came together by happenstance. You know what I mean? And
Because of the distance of stars?
because of how vast it is. Like I look or whatever, and I see how complex and incredible the universe is. Like how you were talking about the multiverse and stuff. I've watched stuff National Geographic. Super interesting. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy how big it is. And then like even on the opposite side of that spectrum, looking at DNA, looking at how minuscule things are, right? How complex things are. Even some scientists, perhaps they're atheists at that time, they look and they realize this is incredibly complex. The way that things fell together, I mean, this is just myself speaking.
Sure.
The way that things fell together, it just was, if one particle in the atmosphere, or the universe rather, was different, we would not exist as a human species today.
If there's one particle?
If one thing didn't happen, we would.
Yeah, that's quite an overstatement.
Okay. Well.
But okay, so you're just saying you look into the universe and you're just kind of overwhelmed, and so therefore you're going to have to help me make that leap from a feeling of awe, which I understand that. I can hike to the top of a mountain peak and look out and go, wow, it is gorgeous, it's beautiful. But then I've got to make a leap from there then to saying, well, there's an invisible God who calls himself Yahweh, who made all of this, and that kind of thing. You see, so I can't make that leap. I can't make that leap unless I've got the evidence, and I don't want you to have the evidence as well. All right, who hasn't had a chance to speak here? Okay, we'll go a couple more. Yeah, you in the back there.
When you were younger, before college, did you accept Christ?
Well, I don't. Well, in my view, no, because there is no Christ to accept. Did I grow up in the church? Yeah, I grew up in the church and did religious things.
Did you ever, but personally say that Jesus was your Savior and be baptized?
I was baptized, and I thought I did that, but I don't think I actually did.
Even if
There is no real Jesus like to live in my heart kind of thing.
But even at that point, wouldn't all this be pointless if at one point you did believe that, you asked Jesus into your heart? Being an atheist now would be absolutely pointless.
No, that just means at one point I was mistaken. And then as I grow older, I come to the conclusion, oh, it's just like this. As a child, I used to believe in Santa Claus. But you're not going to say that, well, now that I'm an adult and I don't believe in Santa Claus, that this is all erased. Yeah, sorry if I ruined that for some of you. But you see the analogy? Yeah, the analogy would be the same. All right, yeah, you. Oh, that was your question. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Kind of nervous.
Don't be nervous. I won't bite your head off.
Well, like you said.
I won't. Just relax.
Your teacher, like, made you change your.
Well, my teacher got me to think critically about what
I think everybody should do that because they don't know. Like, I think people should switch and
Like you should become atheist for a little bit.
Well, no.
Hey, you're a laugh from my own heart. You want all these people to become atheists?
So I don't.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's good. That's a way to be honest. Thank you. All right, you, and I think then I'll have to wrap things up. Yes, ma'am.
Who do you believe that made you? Like, how are you saying
That's my
today?
Where do you think it came from?
I had a mom and dad. And there's this procreation process. Yeah, I mean, this is a story of evolution. There were two people, my mom and dad. Before them, it was their parents. Well, okay, when you look at evolution, what you discover is that human beings have a common ancestor with primates, and so we would trace the evolutionary tree back. Yeah, that Darwin was definitely one of the big influences.
Okay, well, the Big Bang Theory came from a part of what you said where the world began. He's created a lot of
Okay, well, you're kind of mixing things up. You're mixing Big Bang cosmology and biological evolution, and those three, want to keep those separate.
The question was, the Big Bang Theory was who created the world. The world's already here. What created it?
But doesn't this same question apply to your God? If God created everything, well, who created God? You see? So that's a good question. Now I'm going to have to pause here because I know we're running out of time, and I don't want to overstay my welcome here. But let me just, if I can ask you a question, and you can just be honest with me. Did you feel a little challenged in what you believe today? It's okay to admit that, even if I'm an atheist. It's okay to admit that to me. But did you feel challenged by an atheist kind of just throwing out some thoughts for you?
No.
A lot of you felt challenged? Not shaken? Okay, that's okay. But challenged. All right. Well, I just want you to know, okay, that you were challenged today, but you weren't challenged by an atheist. I'm actually not an atheist. I'm actually a Buddhist. No, I'm just kidding. I am actually a Christian. You don't believe me? I have my business card here. I am actually with an organization called Stand to Reason. And if you look at the back of my business card, it says Equipping Effective Ambassadors for Christ in the Areas of Knowledge, Wisdom, and Character. Okay? I'm a Christian. Now, obviously, if I'm a Christian, and do you think I argued well for atheism? Yeah. Good. I try to be the best atheist I can possibly be. Well, actually, there are atheists that would come to a church. I have some friends that are atheists that will come to. They would love to come to speak to you, but they live in California, so we couldn't get them out here. But I'm out here, and obviously, if I'm a Christian, I think all those things that I brought up can be answered. All right? But our goal tonight was to make you think, to challenge you. I wanted you to feel challenged. Okay? Now, let it sink in. I'm on your side, okay? Sometimes it takes groups a little bit of time to shift here. But I'm on your side. Okay? I love Jesus. Prove it. This is my friend Mary Jo. I don't know if you know Mary Jo, but
I know Mary Jo.
Mary Jo and I, we both teach what is called apologetics, and we try to teach clear thinking Christianity. Because look, here's what I know about you guys. Those of you who are planning to go off to college, which is usually most of you, what you're going to find at some point in your college career, if not already, you're getting it. If those of you are in public high school or you're in the workplace, you're going to get this kind of challenge to your Christianity. And when I talked about growing up in a Christian home, that's true. I did grow up in a Christian home. I grew up in a great youth group like this. I had great Christian friends. But my freshman year in college, I went to a secular college. And my second semester there, I had an introduction to philosophy. It was a required course. And I had a professor who was a really nice guy. He was a very popular professor. But he also came against Christianity all the time. And what he would do in class is he would dismantle me. And I grew up in the church. I was planning to become a youth pastor. And so I would chase him down. I'd go to his office afterwards. And I would try and debate him, and he would just rip me apart, and he just kind of left my Christianity on the floor. I remember walking out of his office just with fear and trembling going, oh my gosh, is this stuff really true? Or have I grown up with it, and that's the only reason I believe? And see, I wasn't ready for that. Nobody in my youth group, no one came to my youth group and did this with us. No one came to my youth group to warn me, to say, hey, wake up. Because you got people out there who don't believe what you believe. And they actually have some pretty strong arguments against what you believe. And so my goal tonight was to help you wake up. Because, here's what I see. I work with students all across the country. And what I see all the time are students who are not prepared. They go off to college, and they're not only overwhelmed by the intellectual arguments that their Christianity gets hammered with, but then they're also sucked away by the moral environment of the college campus. And so it's a 1-2 punch. The intellectual and the moral, and what we see is it sweeps so many of our Christians away. And we don't want you to be that statistic. Because according to statistics, 61 to 70% of you, those of you who are in high school, 61 to 70% of you will walk away from God for some period of time during college. Can you imagine if we just took 60% of you right now and just walked you out the door and say goodbye? You're going to walk away from God for a period of time, if not for good. That is tragic. And I don't want to lose you. Of course, your church doesn't want to lose you. God does not want to lose you. And so what you need to do is you need to figure out why what you believe is really true. Okay, tonight's just the start. Tonight is a spark. What I wanted to do is come in here and rile your feathers a little bit, get you upset a little bit. So that, good. Well, now what you need to do, and let's do this. Let's do a little scale here, okay? From a scale of 1 to 10, let's say 10 means we destroyed that atheist, okay? 10 is we destroyed that atheist with our arguments. That's a 10. 1 is that atheist destroyed us. What grade would you give yourself? 8? Like 8 out of 10? Okay. All right. You give it 4? Okay. A 5? A 3? 5, 3, a 7, 6. Okay, now those are the high schoolers. College students. I'm curious. What are your grades, college students? 5, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 2, a 1. Okay, a 2. All right, so a little bit lower. High school students, you might want to listen to your older, wiser college students, because if I'm going to be honest with you and I'm going to give you a grade, it's going to be down in the 2, 3. Okay. Now let's just say I go with your grade. Let's just say we're generous here. We'll give you a 5. Okay, we'll give you a 5. Yeah, cheer. 5. Yeah. Now just remind me. I know you're in school. But let's see, if our scale is 1 to 10 and you got a 5 out of 10, that's what percentage is that? 50%. And is that like a C or a B? Oh, 50% is an F. Oh, so even if we were generous, you got a 50%, you failed. Okay? Now look, I'm your friend. I can beat you up. Because I'm on your side, okay? Right? Better, what the proverb says, better are wounds from a friend, right, than the sweet words of an enemy. I'm your friend. I'm here to beat you up for a reason. Because I want to motivate you. Because I'm not willing to watch you walk away and lose your faith when you go to college, okay? So I'm your friend on that. But look, if we said we failed, and if it's more realistic, like we did like 30%, then that means we have work to do. If you fail a test in school, you don't walk away and go, oh well, maybe next time I'm going to continue doing the same thing. If you continue doing the same thing, guess what? You're going to keep failing. So that means you've got to do something different. You've got to change. All right, I'm going to give you a few resources. We're almost out of time. I wish I had a whole weekend with you to train you, but thank God for technology because we have some ways to train you. In fact, I think we have some blue cards that are in the... Number one, we brought a resource table back there. We covered it up. We didn't want you to know it. We didn't want to try and give away my identity. But the organization I'm with, Stand to Reason, our goal is to build a relationship with you long term. I hope that you remember the name Stand to Reason when you go off to college because you might need some resources. And so we have some resources on the back table. I've drug those all the way from California for you as resources. Some of you are sitting there and you're thinking, you know what? I got to do something. I got to start learning. Yeah. I've got to do something to start learning. And you know what? There are sheets, half sheets that say STR Place. That's for everybody, if we can get one of those in everybody's hands. But we have some resources. If you sat there and just said, hey, I just got a 2 out of 10, or that the atheist just owned me, then you need to go back, take some of your hard-earned money, or your parents' hard-earned money, and invest it and say, okay, I'm going to get a book that's going to start helping me. I'm going to get a CD or something that I can start listening to. Okay? That's one way to start. Let me give you a very practical way. You're getting a sheet right now that has information about a website that we built last year for students, for you, for junior hires, high schoolers, and college students. It's the site that says STR Place. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to strplace.org. And I want you to go there, and I want you to start searching out some of the resources we have there. And what we try to do every week is we try to put up video of us training you. And so one of the things that we do is every Tuesday we put up a challenge that you're going to hear on the college campus. We put up a challenge from atheists. We put up a challenge from other religions. And then we get your opinions. We let you kind of offer your response. And then on Thursday I offer my response in a video form. And so you can go back and look at the different objections that we've answered. We talked last week about Bible contradictions. We looked at the idea of a particular Bible contradiction between Matthew and Mark when Jesus curses the fig tree that atheists bring up. How do you answer that? How do you respond to that? Well, we help you do that. And so I want you to go to strplace.org and find resources there. For those of you who want to go deeper and you want a free resource, we've got these cards on the back table. What this is your ticket to a free subscription to our bi-monthly newsletter. Our bi-monthly newsletter, when I talk about a newsletter, I'm not talking about, a newsletter where you're going to see like pictures of our staff at a bake sale or something like that. What you're going to get is what we call solid ground. It's where every other month we take a challenging topic from atheists, from skeptics, something that you will hear in the culture that will challenge your Christianity, and we will help you think through it carefully. And we will help you to be able to do more than just say, well, because the Bible says so. Because if you want to be an effective Christian in this culture, you've got to be able to do more than say, the Bible says so. Okay? You've got to be able to say more than just pray about it. You've got to be able to engage intelligently and graciously. We will help you do that. All you got to do is let us know where you live, fill this card out, give it to us at the back table, and we will send you free resources. Okay? These are practical things you can do right away. Now, let me just say this in closing. Why am I a Christian? Why am I a Christian? I grew up in the church, but I am not a Christian because my mom and dad said that I ought to be a Christian. Right? I'm not a Christian just because I grew up in America. I'm not a Christian because the Bible says so. It's not as simplistic as that. The reason why I think you should be a Christian, the reason why I'm a Christian, is because Christianity is true. It is true. And it is true whether you believe it or not. That is my view. In fact, that is, of course, the view of the Scriptures. That is Jesus' view. Christianity is true. Christ is who he said he is, whether you believe in him or not. It's what we call objectively true. Now, here's your job over the next few months, weeks, years, for the rest of your life, is now discovering why it's true. What is the evidence? Because I said to you several times, we don't have any evidence. We absolutely do. The more that I study atheism, the more that I study other religions, the more I am convinced that what we believe as Christians is really the truth. But I can't take all that and put it into your mind. You have to come to that conclusion yourself, right? And so I am challenging you tonight is to not forget this moment. Don't walk out of here and go back to, kind of status quo. That's no longer an optional if you just failed. That's no longer an option. You need to figure out what you're going to do so that you become convinced that you have your own reasons why this stuff is really true. And the evidence is on our side, guys. Look, like I said, I was able to come up here and argue well for atheism, but I'm not an atheist because I think their arguments failed. So walk out of here and figure out what you're going to do to become a Christian who actually knows what they believe and why they believe it. Okay? And let me pray for us. God, thank you for this time that I've been able to spend with these students. And Lord, we pray that your Spirit would use this as a spark in their lives. Use this as just the beginning point, Father. And use it to motivate them to grow in their knowledge of you. Help them never to underestimate the importance of growing in their knowledge. And I pray that these students in this youth ministry would relentlessly pursue the truth and would come to discover the evidence that you have provided us in this world. And I pray that these students would then grow in their faith and their confidence in you so that they would be able to go into this world and answer the challenges and present, ultimately, the hope that is only found in Jesus. Because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And I pray that you would help bring these students to a knowledge of that truth. Amen.
Thank you, Brent.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to hang out for as long as you want to hang out. For those of you who have any questions, I'll be at the back table. Feel free to come talk. I'd love to chat with you, okay?
Hey, thanks, Brett, so much. Hey, it's not good to fail, right? It's not good to fail. I feel like a failure now. But you know what? Fortunately, we have a gracious God who loves us, and a God who created our mind.